I can't think of a time when I've taken the risk that it didn't work out. But A, I take care of my gear. B, I make sure everything is functioning before I bring them there. That means I've already taken a test shot, right? Before you ask to pull them from something. It's hard for people.
Sure.
Right? Even when we do just weddings and regular events, and they'll want like an end of the night shot. They're having a great time on the dance floor, and they're with their friends and their family. But I see something developing that's gonna be a great photo for them because they've already expressed to me they want this wonderful end of the night photograph. Now's the time. And they'll be like, you'll see their brain going, really? Party time, photo time? Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. But everybody that says yes will write a testimony, and it's on our website that said, hey, yeah, I'm so glad that we trusted you.
Welcome to the Living in the Zone podcast. I'm your host, ZoneCoach Jim Fannin. I've coached champions in life, business, and sports for 50 years with a proprietary thought management system that I discovered called SCORE. Every guest on this show has been in what we call a zone state, a purposeful, calm feeling where nothing can go wrong, and you're performing at your highest level.
Today's guest on Living in the Zone is world-renowned photographer Bob Davis. Bob is an acclaimed photographer with over 25 years of experience. He's known for capturing stunning imagery from the 1990s Chicago Bulls to some of the biggest weddings in the celebrity world. Bob is an esteemed Canon Explorer of Light, which is a title given to only 36 of the best photographers in the world. So enjoy some amazing photographs and a great conversation with a true master at his craft right here on Living in the Zone. Bob Davis, welcome to Living in the Zone. I was so fired up to see you. It's been a while. You've been a client. You're a Zoniac. You filmed the 90-second rule, a little movie, short movie. So what's going on, Bob? How's life, and how have you been?
I've been great. Life is good. You know, staying healthy, still actually living the dream. You know, my wife and I, Dawn, my better half, my partner in all of this, she allows me to pursue my dreams, and we're still doing what we enjoy and still providing benefit to people that they're willing to pay us for. So again, we do a happy dance every time a client signs you.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting when you love what you do and do what you love. You know, Bob, you've got one of the most amazing accomplishments, and I'm just going to say it. You are one of the top 35 best photographers in the world. You are the second oldest of the 35 that's been a Canon Explorer of Light. And that started in 1995. When that first came out and they deemed you an Explorer of Light.
I'm getting chills the way you're saying
Yeah, well,
it.
tell me about those chills. How did that happen? And that must have been, oh my goodness, because I've known you for so long. You're awesome, and I think I met you on a plane.
You did. We were on a Southwest
By
Airlines
coincidence.
on a long delay, stuck, and we just started talking.
We just started talking, and then here we are 2 decades later,
Just
maybe?
about, probably, yeah.
Almost 2 decades later. But when you got that honor of an Explorer of Light, what does that mean? What's that all about? But that's prestigious.
It is. And I still pinch myself because you're among your peers who you respect and admire. And sometimes you get that feeling like, I'm not worthy because I'm just doing what I do. But then to be recognized for that and to be considered among the top, I still never consider myself I'm at the top because I want to be green and growing, right? If you think you're at the top and there's no more to learn,
Keep
that's kind
learning.
of a scene, right?
Keep learning.
So I never want to think I'm any better, or I'm at the top of my game, or I've already done the best that I can do and it's all downhill from here. So each year when you get invited back, because it's by invitation for Canon, that means you're still relevant. You're still on the top of your game. You still have something to share. And the main goal of the Explorer of Light program is to share knowledge and to empower others or the next generation and see where they go. It's a ambassador program for a brand, for Canon. So what you're doing is and they don't tell you what to say. They just want you to be passionate about what you do. And if you use their tools, all the better. So yeah, when I got asked to be a part of it, it shocked and floored me. You know, it was always a goal. Ever since the 90s, you know, when they created the Explorer of Light program, my very first camera was a Canon camera. So I've always liked the product and the tool. It just agrees with the way I think and the way the mechanics of everything have always been. So it was just a flow. I didn't have to think about the tool to accomplish what I seen in my mind's eye. And then when they recognize you for that, and again, saying that you have some value to contribute to their audience, that's just overwhelming.
Well, let me put you in the Wayback Machine. Let's go way back in your career. You were a Sun Times photographer, I think about 15 years.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Michael Jordan era?
Yes.
You got some iconic photos you're going to show us a little bit later.
I love The Last Dance that was just shown. Like, oh my God, hey, there's me. I'm in the background.
It's amazing. And you were
bad haircut and all.
And you were in the era with Walter Payton.
Yes.
You're roaming the field as a photographer.
Yes.
And then you became Oprah's photographer.
Well, I worked for her.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
But you were one of the photographers.
Yes.
I know you did her Legends 3-day event,
yes,
which was a huge event.
And it's historic. That was a historic event.
It was. You did Tyler Perry's grand opening of his studio. That was a big deal.
It is, yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
When you do it in a big event like that, where they're paying you and they have a lot of expectations, they want you to capture zone moments.
Indeed. There's no excuse.
There's no excuse.
So if I could share a story.
Please.
One of my mentors, Bob Katalik, he hired me at the Chicago Sun-Times. And I was working in a smaller newspaper, the Daily Southtown. Been around forever on the south side of Chicago. He reached out to me. He saw a potential in me when I was just an intern there, in 1983. And he says, hey, you got to come downtown. I want you to work downtown. You got to come down to the big newspaper. It's like going to the big leagues, right? Going from the farm team to the show.
Wow.
So Katalik was an old-time picture editor, and he shot 4x5, and he gave me my first assignment. And he's holding on to the assignment slip. And it was to go photograph jockey Pat Day at Arlington Heights. He was running the Arlington Million. And he said, kid, come back with a good picture or don't come back at all. We can't publish an excuse here.
Oh, my God.
And then he made me pull this slip from him. And that rings in my head every day when I'm preparing.
He made you pull it.
Here,
you got to want this.
He didn't just hand it. He's like, and he said, I'm not fucking around, I mean it. If you don't come back with a good picture, don't come back at all.
Oh, my goodness. That was your first assignment?
Yes, that was my first assignment. And when he interviewed me, I went in there, I was all excited. I made all these gorgeous prints. I mounted them, presentation, jacket, tie, everything. He's like, I don't want to see that. Get rid of that. Come back tomorrow, bring me your contact sheets. He's like, everybody can shoot 20 good pictures over a year, right? I want to see how you think. I want to see what happens when things go wrong in your contact sheet. How do you recover? How do you get that moment? How do you stay in the zone? You have to be in the zone for when something like that happens to react on your training and your skill set and know that you can't run away from the moment. You got to be there because you are the eyes for the nation and for history. And that's one thing, no matter what I photograph, I realize the longevity of this image is a frozen moment in time that's going to be meaningful, whether it's for a family or a nation or a historical archive.
It could be 100 years from now.
Exactly. And I've had the privilege to work in those arenas, both with a newspaper archive, and I was commissioned by Gary Comer, former founder of Land's End, who wanted to create a visual archive of Chicago in the year 2000. So I was one of the only handful of staff photographers to where we documented anything and everything about Chicago. So that is put into an archive with funding to keep it in perpetuity.
My goodness.
So it's that frozen year in time that people will be able to go back and study, that in the moment when you're just at 1/1000th of a second click is going to last forever. And that is always on my mind, and that's a responsibility.
Those are zone moments,
They
and
are.
you're assigned to capture the zone moment, that
They are.
purposeful, calm, instant. You know, that requires a lot of self-discipline, especially when you know the assignment and the event. For example, Eva Longoria, Tony Parker's wedding, Salma Hayek's wedding, Eddie Murphy's wedding, Tyler Perry's studio grand opening. You know what they want. You know the images they want. What goes into preparing? What kind of discipline before you even get there? Give me a quick rundown on preparation.
Yeah, you can't research enough, right? Because one of my approaches is to be prepared for the moment instead of chasing the moment. Don't be chasing it down like, oh, you know, they're going to be over here and something significant is going to happen there. You get the framework of any event, right? Everything has a framework of what it's going to happen, and here's your timeline, and here's the flow. It's up to me to then research that and figure out, what's their emotional triggers? What do they like? What do they dislike? What brings them into their zone? So the more you know, if it's sports, if it's portraits, no matter what it is, if it's wildlife, the more you know about the subject, the better you are capable of capturing those significant moments. So research is first. You got to research your
And that
subject.
helps you adjust
It sure
and
does.
adapt to the situation quickly. And that has to be done intuitively, doesn't it?
It does. And then it comes to your gear. No matter what you're using, that has to be second nature and intuitive. You can't look down and say,
I'm
what
out
should
of
this
battery.
or what should this setting be? No, right? You can't. It goes back to Katalik saying, come back with a good picture, don't come back at all. That means whenever you walk into a different setting, you change the settings so you're prepared for what can possibly happen, right? You dial in all of the fundamentals so that when something unfolds or something changes, you can adapt.
And you have to know the environment so well, because the Canon of Light, it's all about light. It's all about shadows. It's all about the different images from a different angle. You have to be prepared for that. Can you name one zone moment that sticks out? And I know you've got many, and you've got some photographs that are zone moments where you were so locked in, and then you saw the photos and go, I can't believe I just shot that. Did any come to mind?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so too many, really. I'll just go back to one. You brought up Oprah. I was photographing an event for Oprah. It was Dr. Maya Angelou's 75th birthday party. And it's a who's who of anybody who's there, right? Oprah's there, Dr. Angelou's there. We're at Mar-a-Lago, Trump's property, and they're in cocktail hour, things are mingling, and they have these amazing details, human trees, people that are in these tree costumes and walking around. It's phenomenal. And I see this light developing, the golden hour of light, and it's coming through a little doorway in the shaft of light, and there's this ornate, patinaed doorway, and the shaft of light is just beautiful. And I'm like, this is a moment is coming. So I get Dr. Angelou, and I say, would you stand here for a minute? She goes, sure. Now I have to convince Oprah. So I have to pull Oprah away from the cocktail hour. So I go and get Oprah. I said, Ms. Winfrey, I've got a photograph in mind. I've already got Dr. Angelou. It's over here. She goes, it better be good.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
But
Don't
she's like,
come back the same line.
exactly. It
Same
better be
line.
good. So she's like, you get 1 minute, right? So, okay, come with me. Put her there. Boom, click. It's not like you take 500 photos and you have the moment to look at it, review. We're going to move this way. We're going to move that way. No. And she's like, I'm done. I'm out. So
Just like that.
she took her one
Did you have
photo
your
and left.
fingers crossed?
Of course, right? But that's where the preparation comes in. That's where seeing the light that's developing, knowing the moment, knowing that Dr. Angelou is a mother figure for her, right? and this golden light and the way it was going to look. And I had Dr. Angelo in front and Oprah alongside of her, kind of coming together with their arms around each other. And this is all online. You could Google Dr. Angelo, Oprah, and Bob Davis, and this photo will come up. It's this beautiful moment that Oprah had life-size printed in her home, right?
Goodness gracious. 1 minute.
That's validating that
She gave you 1 minute for something that's now hanging in her home.
Yes.
Wow.
And that happens, we do get commissioned to work with high-profile people that have high expectations and very little time, meaning their time is precious. So if you pull them away from something that they're engaged in, you have to be confident,
Right.
And you have to execute it. You can't go back and say, sorry, it was out of focus. I didn't get the exposure.
Can we do it
right."
again?
Yeah, no, there isn't.
There's no do it again.
No. And sometimes when I'm looking at the pictures, I say to myself, you had a lot of balls to do that. Because anything can happen, right? The camera could malfunction.
Good fortune favors the bold.
And it does. And what's that
You're
term?
a bold photographer.
Yeah, well, you have to be.
You have
right?
to. Yes, you do.
Be first, be bold, or be forgotten.
Yep.
Right? You have to take that risk. Knock on wood, I mean, I can't think of a time when I've taken the risk that it didn't work out. But A, I take care of my gear. B, I make sure everything is functioning before I bring them there. That means I've already taken a test shot, right? Before you ask to pull them from something. And that goes to the same fact as if you're photographing just anybody and you want to remove them from a zone that they're in to switch gears. That's hard for people.
Sure.
Right? Even when we do just weddings and regular events, and they'll want like an end of the night shot, and they're having a great time on the dance floor, and they're with their friends and their family. But I see something developing that's going to be a great photo for them because they've already expressed to me they want this wonderful end of the night photograph. Now's the time. And they'll be like, you'll see their brain going, really? Party time, photo time? Sometimes they say yes. Sometimes they say no. But everybody that says yes will write a testimony, and it's on our website that said, hey, I'm so glad that we trusted you.
Relaxation. You and I have talked about that, working together, keeping your breathing under 10 breaths a minute. And you can really get in these moments of truth where your heart rate goes up, which it automatically will. But your breathing, you want it to be low so your camera doesn't shake, number one. And so you can capture those moments. Have you trained yourself over the years to be calm and cool in these moments of truth?
Indeed. And you have to edit. Being in a visual medium, we're mostly visual beings, there's so much stimulation, especially at a charged event, that you have to edit. Because otherwise you're spraying and praying that you're going to get a good image, where you have to then be in the zone.
Spraying and praying. I think a lot of photographers do that.
A lot of them do, especially with digital, because there's an infinite amount of images you can take without having to change. Like, it used to be 36 exposures. And I remember being at the playoffs for Michael Jordan and the Bulls, and you're on frame 15 on the camera, and you're thinking, uh-oh, what if he makes a run and a break or a breakaway slam dunk? I've only got 10 shots left. Should I change the film now? But then our editors would say, why'd you waste 10 frames? Each frame costs X amount, and they're on the budget. How many rolls of film do you go through? And you have to weigh that in your mind in a split second. Like, there's a timeout. I'm changing. I'll get yelled at later. But if you get the shot, nobody yells at you, right? But if there isn't a breakaway and nothing happens, then they're like, well, why'd you waste half a roll of film, right?
And, of course, that's what you enjoy. You like this pressure, don't you?
I do. That's why we still strive to photograph the biggest events. Just 2 weeks ago, we had our biggest event of the year. That's for a very high-profile client, Richard and Dr. Stacy Stevenson. He was the founder of Cancer Treatment Centers of America, among other accomplishments, their 10th year wedding anniversary. And they want these significant moments for their memory, family archive, and for their children. So, I'm trying to, when you work with a client over a period of time like that, you always have to think of a way to present something new to them. So why don't they just go hire the next brightest, youngest, most talented person? So the way to do that is multiple points of view. I was running 4 remote cameras, 2 time-lapse cameras, and photographing live. So you're able to capture significant moments with one camera, but the same moment is being captured by your remote camera from a different point of view. And I'm doing things like a remote camera. They have a carriage. They went for a carriage ride on their estate beforehand. That's photographing them. I can't be present in their carriage. And with technology, we could do things like silent mode so the camera's not interrupting their zone. So I have it in their carriage.
Cameras now don't make noise.
They don't.
How new is that?
That's very new. Yes.
That helps in wildlife, obviously.
Wildlife, and a moment like this. Like here they are on their private carriage, their 10th anniversary, they're sharing private moments together, and they're not being distracted by a click, click, click. Because you could see that even in wildlife and people, they then react, look into the camera, instead of remain in their zone in a significant moment, which they'll treasure.
I love that. Well, let's do a collage.
Sure.
Let's look at some of these iconic, I got a little quickie preview, but I can't wait to go through them.
Yeah, I thought it would be fun.
I think it is. Show me some zone moments that you captured in your
so didn't you just say
amazing career?
Favor benefits the bold. How did you say
Good
it?
fortune favors the
There
bold.
you go, right? So early on in my career, again, embrace, be bold, ask. All a person can do is say no, right? You can't be offended if they say no. And you'll know when they really mean no.
No means no.
Right? But there's no. That means not right now. But then if you try and show them the benefit of what you're trying to do, then usually they say yes. So I was photographing, this is in the 80s, early on in my career, single frame advanced camera film. You had to change the film for the situation. I'm the only person to ever photograph Bozo, now I'm dating myself, Bob Bell, at his retirement show.
If you live in Chicago and you've been here 30, 40 years, you know Bozo.
Yeah.
Bozo, the iconic clown.
So this is Bob Bell at his last show. I asked, can I photograph you becoming Bozo in his makeup? And, PR people, and they're like, no one's ever done that. We don't want to show the person behind the mask, right? So, but he said, yes, this is historic. This is my last show. I want these for me.
Oh, my goodness. That is iconic.
Right? So I didn't tell the paper that I took these because, of course, they would want them. It's an exclusive thing at the time until he saw them. And this was for a feature story, so we had lead time. It wasn't on deadline. And he enjoyed them. And he's like, yeah, we need to show those. So, yeah, this is Bob Bell becoming Bozo. In fact,
oh my
here's
goodness.
me in the mirror. Again, because you're trying to be quick, discreet.
When I first got to Chicago, I think it was in 78, we sponsored, I had a little tennis tot program that I sold 43 of them in Chicago. And we sponsored Bozo's Buckets.
There you go.
And so I was so enamored by him because he was electric.
Yes.
He got the kids just crazy. I loved it.
And he was great out of makeup as just witty, comedic, engaging with people. But he wasn't Bozo when he was not in the makeup. He was Bob Bell, but still an engaging personality.
Once he put the makeup on, he transformed.
That voice kicked in and everything.
I love it. I love it. And if you're on our podcast and you're only listening, you're in your car, please go onto our website. You're going to see these pictures. They are iconic on YouTube. And be sure and also subscribe, and you'll be able to see them. But they're memorable. Bob, show me what you have.
Excuse me. So,
and I know this is only a few of hundreds.
It's just
if not
a quick
thousands.
Grab, in my print vault. Again, I always try and go up above and beyond the assignment. So I had an assignment when I was at the Sun-Times to photograph Muhammad Ali. He was at a celebrity chair auction. The assignment was just get him at the podium doing this celebrity chair auction. He was, working the gavel. My mind starts going and starts thinking and start researching. And I realized that Muhammad Ali was one of the first African-American athletes, among others, to really cross that racial boundary. Like people didn't see him as African-American. He had the same appeal in the white community, Hispanic community.
Global ambassador.
Yes.
Yeah.
and truly indeed. So how can I convey that? So I went to a material store, got some black fabric and white fabric, and I made a backdrop. I had them sew it together. So I had literally 5 minutes to do this photo backstage before he went on stage. But he could have said no. I went there, set up the backdrop, had the light, and this is film days, had everything ready to go.
Already saw the image you would like to have in your mind.
Yep. And I asked him if he would stand on the backdrop. I brought the boxing gloves, right? And he got it. He stood right at the seam of the black and white, right?
That is so cool, Bob.
And he enjoyed it that he asked me for a print. So I sent him, 4 or 5 prints. He had a farm in Indiana. And I didn't ask. I never asked. But he sent me an autographed print back to me.
That's so cool.
It is, right? It is. And it's one of those photographs I'm just very proud of.
This is a Zoniac photographing the ultimate Zoniac.
There you go. Yes.
It really is.
Yes. So it's just great. Another early on photograph in my career is the Rat Pack. So Frank,
are you dating? When were you 12 when you shot this?
Yes, I think this was 1982, 83. Chicago Theater. To my knowledge, the last performance of Frank, Dean, and Sammy in Chicago. And the goal was to get a photograph of all 3 of them together in the performance, because they notoriously are all over the stage. They all sing a song separately, then they come together. Well, they did one set, and then they came together, and Frank's leaning on the piano. He's, you could smoke back then. He's smoking. He's having a cocktail, and everybody else is commiserating. So he's leaning on the piano, and he's looking out into the audience. Does one of these. He's like, hey, you. I'm like, God, he's not talking to me, I hope, please. Right?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm 21 years old. He goes, you. And I'm like, yes. Because back then you could go anywhere. There was unlimited time as long as you weren't in anybody's way. I was Orchestra Center, Chicago Theater. And he points at me. He goes, hey, kid, did you get your picture yet? And he goes, get the hell out of here. And the whole Chicago Theater starts clapping and laughing. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I backpedal it out and I leave. I thought he was really serious. So I left. And I go back to the paper and they're like, well, did you get a shot? I literally only shot a half a roll of film.
That was it.
But this is the shot they wanted. All 3 of them in one frame. I have individuals, and that's back in old school film. It's click, advance, click, advance. No color because we used to have a color deadline, and then anything could go into the edition. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
A color deadline.
Because it was a complicated process, and it would be color only on the front and back page on a press where the placement of color could be. And so color deadlines were early. In order to make it for home delivery. Black and white, they could put on the press at any time and swap out and put it in. So it was starting at like 7 or 8 o'clock, so we were already past our color deadline. So only shoot black and white film.
That is amazing.
A lot of fun.
That's iconic.
It's fun.
I didn't know you got kicked out of the theater.
Oh, well.
By Frank, of all people.
Yeah, so it's
Why
a badge
not?
of honor, right?
It's a badge of honor. Get
the chairman of the board.
Out of here.
The chairman of the board said leave. Yeah, traveling with the Bulls, the many championships. It was so much fun.
This was fun. I was here in that era. I had floor seats. Oh, my gosh, saw every game. You saw every game. Goodness gracious, you've got so many.
About having to be in the zone, because you'll recognize this. It would get so loud on the floor that it would drum out the sound of the voice in your head.
Drown out the sound of the voice in your head.
Yes.
So you could easily get confused.
Yes.
And miss a shot.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And I used to, back then, again, old cameras used to have those little letter maker tabs, label makers. They would punch in the labels. One, you'd squeeze it, and it would squeeze a letter in it. On all my cameras, I had in the back, think.
Think.
Because as you're pulling it up to your eye, think. Oh, is my setting right? Think. Well, how much film do I have left? Think. Are the batteries good? Right?
Have you
Check
ever
the
missed
rewind.
Have you ever missed a shot?
I'll never admit it.
Without film. Don't admit
Once.
it. Once?
Once I did.
Early.
I did. So I had to photograph Mayor Daley, the son, when he had first got elected, in his office, kind of a documentary fly on the wall, day in the life of the mayor, like the first month or so he was in office. So I'm in there, shooting, being discreet. Figured one roll of film, I'll step out. So I stepped out, and you start the rewind on the film. And I'm rewinding, and I'm rewinding. And I'm like, oh no. Nothing, no resistance, nothing. So
You had no film?
No film in the camera.
Oh my goodness.
But fortunately, it wasn't like 5 minutes with him or not. I could have had the whole afternoon. So I knock on the door and I said, excuse me, Mayor Daley, you know, the afternoon light, it's coming in through that window now is so perfect. It would make a great portrait of you at your desk.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I like that.
Go back in.
A save.
And that's all he cared about and wanted to see was that portrait with the light. Show me the portrait with the light.
Oh, I love that.
So I sent it to him, right? I have a colleague of mine, when digital first came about, the quality of digital pictures weren't very good. You'd have a lot of noise. We would call it grain with film. And he's an amazing master photographer in Australia, Yervant. So he didn't care, right? He wanted the moment. So he would take what we call the film sensitivity, the ISO, is whatever it took to capture the photograph. In the early days of digital, anything above like 400, you'd get this very coarse image with grain. And so in his sales process, he would get the moment, and that's what's most important, and he would point it out to the client. Oh, but look at this texture that I added. So he made it a positive instead of a negative.
Oh, my goodness.
So again, I learned from things like that to embed them, use them.
To adjust.
To adjust.
And adapt.
Yep.
I love that.
So now that word spread in his area, and his next client will come in and say, hey, don't forget to add that grain.
Oh, that's funny.
Right?
That is so cool.
Yeah. So you make it so, right? Make it a positive instead of a negative. So yeah, life has been great. We do great events. I love wildlife.
Now this one, you called me from a cliff.
Yeah.
On the Mississippi.
I have.
While you were shooting eagles. And this is mind-blowing because it looks like a painting. Look at the detail.
It's the light, too, right?
How much time did you set up, like, on the Mississippi? And you told me something about eagles in Illinois.
Yeah,
I did not know.
Yep. So eagles have become so prolific in Illinois that Illinois, along the Mississippi River, and now pretty much throughout the state, is only second to Alaska with the most permanent nesting residents of eagles. So that's really an accomplishment as a people.
Why is that?
Well, I'd like to believe because we've cleaned up the water.
Okay.
You have to have, for any wildlife species, water, shelter, and food. So they have that. They were not bothered. They were allowed to have nests. The Mississippi has been cleaned up tremendously, along with all of our canals and waterways. No more spraying of DDT. We have a lot of farm fields, right? So there's no more bad chemicals. I shouldn't say no more, but far less. So they're prolific. And when they raise their young, they stay here. They don't migrate away. So if the conditions are right, they'll stay.
And of course, this would be when you would want a camera that makes no noise.
It would be. It's great to have a camera that makes no noise because it doesn't disrupt their behavior and their zone, right? So, like this, it's waiting for the light, right? So you compose the picture and you wait. You put yourself in an area where you know you could be successful. Now, the light was there. I was there. You can't predict wildlife, right? Then you just have to hope that, at sunset, you do your research. You know they feed in the morning when they first wake up, they're hungry. Then they're going to feed at night before they go to bed. Or if they have young, they got to feed them before they put them to bed, right? So they're going to hunt sunrise, sunset.
This is the self-discipline and the concentration that really goes into you having a zone photograph.
And it doesn't always pay off, but then you just repeat, rinse and repeat. Go back, do it again. Go back, do it again, right? Prepare yourself, but be prepared. And again, instead of chasing the moment.
You also filmed some bear, which I find amazing that you would be. How far away were you from this tree? I know there's
There is mega telephoto lenses, and this one wasn't that far. Maybe 25 yards.
Oh, my goodness.
But
that's not far.
No, not far at all. Silent mode on the camera. And if you learn about animal behavior, you mimic them in a way that you are not threatening. First, you realize you're in their world.
Sure.
They're going to hear, smell, and be aware of you far more before you're aware of them. And then you make yourself small. You don't come out tall and intimidating. Us as an animal, we're a predator. We have forward-facing eyes. We're large, being just our height alone towers above them. So when you want something like this to happen, this is a young bear, and bears are cautious before they enter any clearing for any other bear or predator or anything that can harm them. So I saw the brush moving in the distance, and so I'm in the forest where I know they are. There's trails, you're in bear country. This is northern Minnesota. And so you just pick a spot and you stay and you wait. And if you stay small, down low, don't move fast, and when you see the bear, you don't immediately whip up your lens and whip up your eyes forward, because that could be aggressive interpretation by them. So you sit low and you kind of look above your eyes or above your camera. You already have your camera there, and you're on one knee. Because if you're down fully seated on the ground, bears stand up to get a good view of things to look around. They might want to wrestle with you. Right? That's just natural.
That's not a good thing.
No. So you want to be able to stand up quickly. So that's why you're never fully on, maybe down on one knee. So this bear came to the edge of the forest, and it kept going like this, like looking at the clearing. And I saw it doing that. So then I thought that was a neat behavior. I like to see behaviors along with portraits, and it's a gift to witness that. And then he didn't deem me any threat at all, and literally came fully out and then just walked right out into the field.
Now, did you get this photograph to the bear so he could put it up in the bear den?
Right, right. Very cute. One of a mentor photographer of mine is Jim Brandenburg for National Geographic. He actually went to the extreme. He has an amazing book where he lived with a wolf pack for a couple of years in northern Minnesota in the boundary waters. Yep. That they accepted him. So he has these amazing behaviors. Probably one of the most financially successful photographs is of a white wolf jumping between ice floes in the boundary waters between Minnesota and Canada. And it just sold like crazy in the late 90s, early 2000s. And, you learn from other people's experiences. And that's how he was able to get that behavior, that image, was by being present.
I love it. Being in the zone.
Being in the zone, yeah.
Purposeful calm.
Sure. Wildlife is fun. I consider this one of my favorite and best photos just because of all the elements that came together. It was just kids boxing for a charity event, the expressions, the feel of it, the American flag, all of it, right?
Look at there's relief, there's joy, there's accomplishment in one photo. Wow.
But that's, 1/25th of a second, but 20 years of learning to be able to accomplish it, right?
Well, that's why you give so many workshops around the world, very small. And when you do a workshop, you just came back from Africa with a workshop. How many people are in your workshop?
We like to keep it small just so that we can have access to the attendees to make sure that they leave with whatever they want to accomplish with. So no more than 12 people.
One of your trips, I think, to Poland, one of my clients was on your trip. He didn't know that I knew you. I didn't know that he was even interested. That was Joey Cora.
Wow. Sure.
And I guess his wife is into the photography,
yes.
And he went along. That was surreal for me to go, Bob Davis, what are you talking about? You were with Bob in Poland.
That was an amazing trip.
During a workshop, yeah.
Well, we were there to teach lighting. We had models. It was all fun. We posed it to the group. Hey, we're only a couple hours away from Auschwitz. Who's interested?
And you went?
And we went.
Oh, my goodness. Those photographs must have been amazing.
The photos, the experience, everything about it. And to share that with that group of people was just astounding. You know, to walk that path and to see the highly organization of cataloging of human beings.
Wow.
And the methodical process of whittling people through it's mind-boggling that a man could be that inhumane.
That's all captured.
It's all documented, and you could see it at Auschwitz. But yeah, it was an incredible experience.
That is an experience.
Never ending. Lots of fun photos. Nature, wildlife, concerts.
Show me the one. It resonated with me of the cheetah.
Sure. It's in here. You have a great story about a cheetah.
Well, I've shared the cheetah story for a long time, where I saw a kill personally. And so did you, and you captured it. Tell. I want to know all about this photo of how this came about.
Again, it's a privilege. You don't just get to show up in Africa and see animals in this type of behavior. You got to put in the time, or you're extremely lucky. So this is a mother cheetah, and she had 4, we'll call them subadult male cubs. And we had known about them for a few days with our guides. And of course, it's a goal to see this type of behavior and witness it. But it rarely happens that you're there when it happens. So we put in the time. And again, we asked the group. We actually went into 2 different vehicles. One vehicle was going to stay out all day. And we spent 4 days all day with just this group. They call a group of cheetahs a coalition on them, while the other people went off and saw a variety of animals. Well, we had already seen a lot of species. And I posed it to our group, we'll call them the hardcore wildlife people, who sooner or later, this mama's going to hunt to feed those young, right? We got to put in the time. So we were there from sunrise to sunset. And
amazing.
On the 3rd day, and again, very respectful, knowledgeable guides. This is in Mashatu Game Reserve in Botswana. The guides are outstanding. They're very respectful. So it's safety first for both the animal and the guests, because you never want a guest to get harmed, because then the animal gets harmed, right? So we're always a safe distance away. Everybody has telephoto lenses. So we were prepared. We were out watching this mama, and she'd have her 4 subadult cubs, male boys, with her. And there were many false starts. What I mean by that is mama would get the boys, huddle them together. You could see the impala. They were upwind, so the impala didn't have the scent. And then she was teaching them crouching. So we got to see this whole process.
Training. You're watching a training program.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
And then you'd see the boys goof off and then spook. And you'd see mama turn around, getting aggravated. Because her goal is to get them self-sufficient, because if they can't feed themselves, they'll perish. So in this particular day, she stashed the boys behind a rock on a little bit of a berm. Cheetahs like to be high so that they could see elevation in a clear area. So this steenbok happened to wander down in her zone, in her line of sight, and they make a cackling sound. And mama made a sound, saw the boys' heads perk up, because otherwise they were flat cats sleeping. This was late afternoon. But they stayed. She somehow signaled to them to stay. So they stayed. She did the whole crouching, got within striking range of this steenbok, and the chase was on. So she caught it. And again, being prepared, I'm calling up our settings to our crew. I'm like, okay, cheetah's going to move fast, so you got to have a super fast shutter speed, 3200th of a second.
Oh, my goodness. A lot goes into this.
Yeah, make sure your camera's in high speed, frame rate capture, all these sets of things. Make sure you're in this focus perimeter. We don't need all the focus marks active, because let's suppose it would grab focus back here, right? We're narrowing the camera's choice for autofocus to just this zone, right? Narrowing the possibility of error. So we're on it, and I'm calling out, stay on her, stay on her, stay on her, watch her, she's up, she's gone, right? I'm calling it out because I've been with the guides enough that I kind of have a good sense of knowledge. and she captures the steenbok. She stunned it. I thought at first she killed it, but our guide boss, she's like, watch, she's not going to kill it. I'm like, what do you mean? She's got to feed the boys. Training exercise. She has to teach them to hunt. So she grabbed it by the throat and stunned it, knocked it out, brought it back to the boys, laid it at their feet, and Mama's panting like crazy because she's full out exhausted from the chase. And they're kind of tapping it with the paw, licking it, not knowing what to do. And I'm just feeling for this poor steenbok because it wakes up and it has to be terrified.
Panic, help!
So it just stood up slowly, and it knew that they're triggered by motion. So it slowly took a step away, and it got away. First time. It got away. Mama had to get up, chase it again, stun it again, bring it to the boys.
Wow.
Right.
And this is all captured.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
So now Mama stays with the boys. So if the steenbok wakes up, she doesn't have to chase it. She put a paw on it. So then you could see her smack it in the butt when it wakes up to run. And when it ran, that triggered the young, and then they did what came natural after that. So it was really something to bear witness to and to see and to learn that, you know, life is tough in the wild.
So living in the zone, it must be awesome to be with Dawn, the love of your life.
It is.
In business together. You shot the 90-second rule. I don't even think we had a script. I think that was almost off the cuff. You filmed the whole thing. It was amazing. But I believe you have a placard on one of your doors.
We do.
Is it still there?
It still is. Going in from we use our garage door from our house to the garage as our main door. And right on the door, it's the 90-second rule. Our kids embrace it.
If you've been away with someone you love at least 2 hours, the first 90 seconds you see them has more impact on your relationship than spending hours and hours with them later. Put down your cell phone. But that was the filming of that. It's still mind-blowing because the photography, the Canon camera that I think is brand new.
It was new technology.
New technology. It was cutting edge, and we shot it in one day and edited it. You had a great editor that you brought in, and it's still playing right now on YouTube. But check it out, everybody. Bob Davis.
It's taken for granted now that with your phone, with these cameras, they shoot video now. But that was the first camera that incorporated that form factor because it would allow you to use different lenses to give that look and that depth and that isolation versus even just a year before we filmed that for you, you would need a big cinema type camera where video cameras have a smaller sensor so everything looks in focus. You know, you don't get that depth and separation and clarity that you do with this form factor that's out now. And now it's in every camera.
As an Explorer of Light, you've helped so many young photographers. But I know this show, showing some of these photos and what really goes into it, I think you're going to inspire a lot of people to go, yeah, I want to upgrade my own photography. And maybe I want to get into that. What would you tell a young Bob Davis? What would you tell him to do?
Well, two things. Just become a sponge about business and marketing, if that's what you want to do for a living, because you're going to feed your passion for the creativity. That's a given. You're just going to feed it. You're going to seek that knowledge, and you're going to go after it. But what do you do when you get a good photo, right? If you want to make a living at this, then you need to know now more than ever digital marketing, business, pricing, and I'm fortunate enough to have Dawn. Because if I didn't, you know, I'd be the starving artist, right? Because I'm happy to just be out there every day.
There's got to be a lot of starving photographers.
There are. Yeah. There are. And persistence. This I recognized early on. Again, ask and ask and ask again. First time someone says no doesn't always mean no. Maybe no today. Maybe I'm not ready for it right now. And to show value. So it's persistence and tenacity.
But I like that. You've really showcased our B to A principle of okay, being a photographer is one thing, but how are you going to make money?
Right.
And so you're saying the business part of that, you better think about that before you really get into it on a commercial enterprise.
As with anything fun is hard to make a living at. You need to be persistent, you need to be tenacious, and you need to be good.
And one of the things I know that you do, and Dawn, this is her expertise, is when you take all these photos, you put together an elaborate, amazing album.
We do. We don't even call it an album.
Well, what's it called now?
Well, because we use Graphi Studio is an Italian fine art book company in Italy. So they're hand-bound and printed in an old world way. So they're actually fine art books.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, they're archival. They're heirlooms. They're works of art. They really are. So that's why you could get an album printed at Shutterfly or things like that, which are nice, and they're a great vehicle for your memories. It's better than leaving, because digital is very fleeting. I'll sidetrack here really quickly. And what I mean by digital is fleeting is we're so accustomed to this and how many photos that we can take that most people, their memories are a flash. You captured it, it's there, you get a new phone, where does that photo go, right? If you don't print it out and do something with it, digital is fleeting. People don't archive it. People don't carry it forward. Where these prints, you don't need a device to look at it. This print will last 150 years, right? It's here forever. Anybody can enjoy it. No technology needed. So in some ways, you still need that old school method of having a print, because what if the battery's dead? What if the technology migrates? We have to migrate our data because storage technology changes so much in order to have these viable. Where with film, you didn't have to. A negative is a negative, and as long as you properly store it, it'll last infinitely, right? And you can pull that negative out and make a print. Digital doesn't. If it's on a floppy disk or a magnetic disk, those things keep evolving. And if it's a significant moment that you want to archive, you need to migrate that data to the latest form of storage.
It sounds like we need a workshop with Bob and Don Davis.
Well, I always sidetrack to that because people take these memories on their phone and then do not print them or save them. So there's a fear of mine is that there's going to be a generation of memories that are lost.
Wow, I haven't even thought of that.
Right? Think about families that have shoeboxes of photos. Those get handed down to the next family member, and nobody ever throws those away because, whoa, that's too precious. That's our family history.
And we have no backup.
Right. But if you get a new computer, who migrates their photos from that computer? What about when the cloud somehow has a glitch and your photos get corrupted, right? Those are the things that if anything is meaningful to you as a person that you've even captured with your phone, make a print of it.
Now, are you still doing weddings?
Still do weddings, big events, corporate, whatever it is. I enjoy the craft of photography, and the camera to me is a passport that opens doors for my curiosity.
Wow, I love that.
Because I'm curious about life and culture and people, and this is my way of getting in.
Let's go back to when we met on a Southwest flight. I don't know, Columbus, Ohio. I
Sure.
don't know where we were coming from, but I just had to talk to you. I could feel the energy from you. I remember getting off going, that was awesome, meeting you. And then we just developed a relationship over the years. But you're definitely a Zoniac. There's no question about it.
You have to, because otherwise you don't get moments like this.
You don't. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Man,
You got to
my pleasure.
come back, and I know we're going to have a whole bunch of events. Oh my goodness, can we bring in the great Bob Davis? But Bob, you are iconic, and I'm so proud of what you've done. I really am. Since I've met you, and I don't know when that was, 80s or 90s or 2000. When 20 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, 2003, 4.
Maybe. Yeah, it's been a while, but you've come a long way. Workshops, big events. Oh, no, you're always evolving.
Got to be green and growing, right?
Yeah, you always need to keep learning. You're a lifelong learner, and that's what makes you so interesting and so good at what you do. Thanks for being on the show, Bob.
Thank you.
You're the
Pleasure.
best.
Thanks for watching or listening to Living in the Zone podcast. Make sure that you subscribe so you can be up to date on all of our information and content. Go to ZoneCoach.com where you're going to learn more on how we can help you live your life, business, or sport in the zone.